symmetry and balance, horizontal lines. The ceiling is modern. These are made by those craftsmen. In this case, it were two Dutch sculptors in Oakland called the Vanderloo brothers. So it's a 20th century ceiling. It was inspired by a 15th century Spanish ceiling that we're going to see in the first room that we go into in the north wing. So in the cottages, all modern ceilings, made to look antique. In the main house, 40 antique wood ceilings, the largest collection of antique wood ceilings in the world. All different varieties. We'll get a good look at those. But the Moorish theme, 19th century Persian inlaid table.
This table?
That table. I mean, not Persian, Turkish. 9th century Persian vases. 20th century Persian carpet on the wall and on the floor. That is a 12th century Caucasian plate on that table, and the two plates here on the fireplace mantle. So always that kind of Moorish theme. This window frame was also made by the Vanderloos. So you can see we've got the turbaned men across the top. We will see this ceiling and these window borders in the other bedroom because it's that Renaissance style with balance, symmetry. You're going to see a mirror image bedroom on the other side. So it's bedroom, sitting room, bedroom. Question that I see there? Heat exchange was controlled by the openings, doors and windows. They remained small. But these doors were big. So they cut a little door right in the middle so people could go in and out without losing heat, letting hot air in, depending on what comes to you.
Now, was this the one that was bombed in the
8th century. This is 14th century Italian from Assisi. So I like to think of 600 years of crèche development in that little area where St. Francis lived. But he keeps the architect, Julia Morgan. Both women moved to San Francisco. Julia Morgan opened the very first independent architectural practice. Rosa Langenegger taught art in San Francisco. So there was a connection between the two of them. Now this is late 19th century academic style. On the other column is the bust of a woman that is 17th century Italian done in the Renaissance style with a Greek style haircut. So that really the only difference is the Greek haircut and the late 19th century haircut. It's plastered, it's ready for the limestone. You can see all three phases right here. On the top of this middle section, there's some I-beams sticking out. That's a Gothic style bedroom, and we're going to go up and see that a little bit later. But in Gothic times, people had balconies. That's as far as they got on the balcony. When you left, that's where they stopped. Oh. The Spanish are much different than the Italian wood ceilings. Those Italian wood ceilings were made out of walnut. They would do all these ornate carvings. Spanish didn't have access to walnut, so their ceilings are made out of pine. So they would do very light carving. They would put in geometric designs and bright paint to make them attractive. So these geometric designs, they just put straight boards attached to it and they cut chevron shapes, painted it. Now this is a room that has a piece of art. Did you have a question?
I did. So were the rooms designed?
His mother's house. Lamps, Chinese. His mother's. And that painting also came from his mother's house. That is the rest on the flight from Egypt. It is a copy of a Velázquez painting that's in the Prado. His mother liked it. In those days, 19th century, you couldn't go to the museum shop and buy a lithograph. You hired a painter to go sit in the museum and paint it for you. And that was common if you were wealthy. So it's not a forgery. In the bottom right-hand corner, it has the copier's name. It's very clear. This is a copy. Beautiful painting, very expensive, but not a Velázquez. However, in the next room, he does have a masterpiece that came from his mother's house. 14th century Italian painting, fine painting, not the masterpiece because we don't know who the artist is. The masterpiece is on that wall. That's the Virgin of the Pillar Visits St. James by Paulo Coelho. Coelho was one of the three great Spanish masters, along with Velázquez and Murillo. There wasn't another great Spanish master until Goya 100 years later. There are only 6 Coellos that are outside of the Prado, the National Museum of Spain in Madrid. There's one in the Metropolitan Museum of Art, 4 in private collections, and then Hearst Castle. Very heavy and so detail-oriented, but it adds this long-lasting color, and so they like the color. Cuenca is the tile, those tiles that have a ridge between the areas of color, so you could put the color in and it wouldn't overlap. Now we've seen a lot of European Renaissance style. Right now we're going to leave this Renaissance European style and go into 1940s Hollywood. That was pretty common, yeah. That was taken in that tub.
So this is still a guest area?
Yeah. So gold-plated plumbing fixtures. How they moved it then. That's how they moved it then. Now, but if you had a large piece of furniture, something that needed to go into a room or an architectural feature, they knew it was going to go in here, and they would drop it in by a crane before they put the roof on, or they'd go through the windows with a crane, something like that. So they found ways to do it.
Is the glass, when did they replace the glass?
As far as I know, this glass hasn't been replaced.
It's still original?
As far as I know. There's no little kids up here playing baseball.
It's not rich.
In the world, so he's collecting Mediterranean art from the 14th to the 17th century. Spanish, Italian, French. You end up with a lot of religious art. But Newsweek magazine did an interview with him in May 1946, and they said, "Mr. Hearst, are you religious?" So we got it right from his mouth. He said, "I am a Christian of no particular denomination." He got married in the Episcopal Church in 1903, and he got buried in the Episcopal Cathedral in San Francisco in 1951. There's no record that he ever went to church in between. However, he was baptized Catholic. He had an Irish nanny, so we're not Irish girls. Yeah, he had an Irish nanny, and his mother went shopping one day when he was praying hands, but only half of this strut. The half that's facing north is 15th century. Everything else in the room, including the other half of that strut, was carved by his workmen to match that one piece.
Wow.
And this bed is English Gothic. So Gothic lasted a little longer in England. It's 16th century. And the Sons of the Pioneers, and they were up here a lot. Roy Rogers said it was the highlight of his career to play for Mr. Hearst. They had a big hit called Tumbling Tumbleweeds, and he said Mr. Hearst would request it over and over again, long after the other guests. Renaissance.
It looked Renaissance, but
It's called Portrait of a Lady. What I like about this painting is that this dog represents her husband. You see there's a human nose on this dog.
So he was a dog.
Sure, it's not just a really bad painting
No,
of a dog.
at that time, white dogs represented loyalty and fidelity. So she's saying, you better be loyal. She's got her husband's face on this dog. And she's got a look on her like, you better be loyal or else.
I guess she knew him.
You can dig through your old Christmas cards and you probably have at least one of those stamps. And this is our 5th female sculptor. Her name is Edith Woodbridge, 19th century academic style. This is Circe, bronze. Everybody remember the myth of Circe? Who Circe was? She was the siren that lured Ulysses' ship from the Odyssey onto the island and crashed there. And then she did something to his crew. Anybody remember? Turned them into swine. They're right on the bottom. So some people come in, they see the statue, they go, why did this lady put pigs on the bottom? This is the myth. Those aren't pigs. That's Ulysses' crew. Very classic. And this 17th century Spanish ceiling is one of those ceilings that was too large. So he cut it down and installed it. We will see the rest of it the next floor up. And I promise you, it's the last set of upstairs.
before you go.
Yes, sir. Who's civilization? They were just bulldozing convents, churches, and monasteries to put up modern buildings. And Mr. Hearst had an agent in Spain who was find out what was scheduled to be bulldozed, and he would go salvage the ceiling and sell it to Mr. Hearst. He sent a message to Mr. Hearst. Mr. Hearst, I found the rarest of all Spanish ceilings, the Media Naranja. Do you want it? Mr. Hearst sent back a 2-word message. Buy it. There is the 15th century Media Naranja. Now the 15th century part is just the dome in the middle. The outsides were made by his craftsmen to fill in the space.
And this came from a church or
Spain, in
a church or a house? Or?
It was a monastery or a convent. In the 8th century, it's called Santiago de Matamoros, St. James the Moor Killer.
And he's killing a Moor.
Yeah, and the myth is that he would keep coming back. I mean, he'd been dead 700 years at this point, but the myth is that he kept coming back to help the Christians fight the Moors.
So he lived after before the Moorish conquest of Spain?
No, this is part of the, had them plastered, and they're done in a Gothic style. And she hired artist, English muralist Camille Salone to paint these scenes. They are Middle Ages fairy tales from England and France. The name of the fairy tale is at the top of the arch on each side. And Salone signed this work in kind of an unusual way. We saw Ed Trinkeller's unusual signature. But on the other side of this archway, there's a young girl carving her name into a tree. They're carving her initials into a tree. So right on this side, the initials in the tree inside of a heart are CS. So we carved his initials into the tree. You recognize the center part, that's by his craftsman. That's similar to the Media Naranja ceiling we saw. It doesn't match the parts around. And here's the rest of that ceiling we saw downstairs. We're going to go around the staircase. Be sure you stop at that window and take a the view, and I'll meet you at the bottom of the stairs outside the door. And we're going to head towards the pool. This is Mr. Hearst was based in Los Angeles, basically. You may have seen this piece there. Olympic events change from Olympics to Olympics. And in 1932, they had 9 arts events in the Olympics. She competed in mixed sculpting. And this, we talked about the drinking thing. This is his warning that bad things happen when you get drunk. This is a satyr, a follower of Dionysius. The grapes represent the wine that was in this cup, but he's drunk and passed out. His eyes are closed, chin's on his chest. And these wood nymphs have stolen his panpipe. And this one is just about to steal his aulus, another type of pipe, A-U-L-O-S. So get drunk and bad things are going to happen. That's why Mr. Hearst has this here for you. Nothing here by accident. Now, just as a little... That mausoleum in Vienna, Italy had a midnight blue tile ceiling with gold stars. He takes that ceiling and puts it on the bottom of the pool. He wants you to climb that diving platform, dive into the heavens and swim through the Milky Way.
There's no shallow end?
No shallow end. He's got alabaster lamps that at night reflect like golden moons on it. And because he puts the heavens on the bottom, he has to put the sandy bottom of the ocean on the top. So in that cork ceiling, there are fish, starfish, and crab. The border of the ocean is just above. You can see the waves on that border. Fish are above, birds are below because it's upside down. This is the daytime blue sky, the midnight dark blue sky. If you're the emperor, you can turn the world upside down. So this was considered the most romantic place in the castle at night. After the movie let out, Mr. Hearst went back to work. Someone maybe caught their eye over the dinner table or maybe a jigsaw puzzle. Meet later here for a romantic swim in alabaster moonlight. Well, ladies and gentlemen, that's the end of the guided portion of the tour.
Thank you so
It has been a pleasure spending this time with you, and thank you for supporting California State Parks.
Thank you very much.
She was an ice skater. She was a guest. Also a guest. Tarzan was a guest here swimming. Also a guest. Famous person.
Dirty book. What? 10 feet.